In any programming language, most commonly you require to use variables. So, why exactly you require variables in programming languages? Generally, you will process with data values. It can be either strings or numbers, right? So, in order to store those values, you require some memory space. Such a memory space in RAM is variable. Even in mathematics, you will assume some variables. For example, you can assume the x as 10. Based on that, you will solve a particular problem. So that is an example of variable. For example, in your code, you have written x equal to 10. So here, x is called as name of the variable, which will store the value that is 10. Like this, you can store all types of values such as numbers, strings, boolean values, etc. So, based on this variable, you can perform various calculations or manipulations. For example, you can perform addition, subtraction, or any other arithmetical operations, or you can check some conditions, or you can do any kind of manipulations based on these variables. For example, let us imagine a scenario that is, there is a student and he writes an examination. So you would like to find out the result based on the student. Either it is pass or fail. So first of all, you require to store the secured marks of the student. For example, it is 70. And also you require to store the pass marks. That is, for example, 40 out of 100. And then you require to store the corresponding result of the student. Either it is pass or fail. So, in this scenario, how many variables you require? That is 3, right? The first one, the secured marks of the student, and then the pass marks, that is the minimum pass marks is assumed as 40, and also the result of the student, that is either pass or fail. So, like this, for processing data values in any kind of programming languages, you require to use variables. In Python language, you can create a variable by just assigning a value into the variable. In this case, you must assign a value into the variable, otherwise there is no direct way to create or declare a variable. The only way to create the variable in Python is, you must assign a value that is called a default value into the variable. For example, x equal to 10. Let us try the same practically. Let me create a new file, variables.py. Suppose I would like to create a variable called x. You can give it any other name. And then you require to write equal to. That means you are trying to assign a value into the variable. You can absolutely assign any value. It can be a number, string, or boolean value like true or false. For example, let's say I am trying to assign a value like 6. So as of now, it is assumed as x equal to 6. So that it will automatically create a variable called x in RAM, and it stores the corresponding value, that is 6. So like this, every time whenever you create a variable, for each variable the memory will be allocated in RAM. But the amount of memory that will be allocated for the variable depends on what value you assign. There is no fixed number of bytes for every variable. So as of now, we have a variable called x equal to 6, and you can access that value anytime by using the same variable name. But in this case, it doesn't print the value directly. So we have to use the print function in order to print the same. So print of x. Notice in this case, I have given the variable name without quotes, because the variable names never be in quotes. In case if you give quotes, it will automatically print the character called x but not the value of x variable. So that is the reason we have to absolutely give x without quotes. See, in the first case, it just prints the character like x. It is just a string. But in the second case, it actually prints the value of x, that is 6 in this case. So as a result, we have got 6 as output for that variable. Similarly, you can try to create any number of variables. For example, y. And in this case, I would like to create a string variable. For example, hello. You can also assign the numbers, strings, or boolean values like we have practiced earlier. And I would like to print the same here. First, I would like to print the variable name just for our understanding purpose. Of course, this part is optional. You can delete the same like this. But the actual value that I would like to print is the variable called y. So now we are getting the actual value, that is hello. So you must write the variable name without quotes. In case if you add the quotes like this, you will get the character called y but not its value. Alright. But I have a doubt here. Can we change the value of a variable? Yes, the name variable implies that you can change. It is variable, means it can change. For example, I would like to change the value of variable x as 10. You can simply assign a new value. It will automatically overwrite the existing value. See, previously, before the execution of this particular statement, in memory, we have a variable called x and it contains the value called 6. Now this statement, all these 3 statements have been executed. And now after that, in the line number 7, we are writing x equal to 10. So what exactly happens whenever you assign the value into the variable? It just overwrites the existing value and the new value sits there. Now the updated value is not 6 anymore. Now the updated value of x is 10. So that is why after this statement, if you try to access that variable value, it will give you 10 but not 6. So the point here is that whenever you assign the new value, the existing value or old value will not be stored anywhere. It gets completely overwritten. So if you try to print x value now, if we are correct, you must get 10, right? Yes, we are getting the same. So we have successfully overwritten the value of existing variable. But I have another doubt here. Can I change the data type of the particular variable? Yes, we can change. In fact, there is no particular data type associated with the variable. You can absolutely assign any type of value into the same variable. But every time when you assign the new value, of course, the old value gets overwritten. For example, in the variable called y, we have earlier assigned a string value that is hello. Notice, here this is the string value, but this y is not a string variable. Means the data type called string is not associated with that variable called y. So in Python, a variable never has any data type, but the values have. Of course, we will understand about data types later in further lectures, don't worry. But now, the question is, can we assign another type of value into the same variable? Absolutely yes. For example, I am trying to assign a boolean value into the same. Previously, it was containing the string value, right? Now we have overwritten that old value, but the new value we have assigned into this y. So absolutely we can get the same here. So now we are getting that updated value called true, that is the Boolean value. So you can change the data type of the variable any number of times. In other words, you can assign any type of value into that variable. That's fine. So previously we have learned arithmetical comparison operators and even logical operators. So can we use those operators with that variables? Absolutely yes. You can use either of them. For example, as of now the x value is 10. Suppose I would like to add some numbers with x. So you can use x plus 6 for example. And also you can multiply the same, let's say with 3. Of course, because of BODMAS, first it will multiply 6 into 3. Based on the result, it will add the same to x. So 6 into 3, 18, right? Then x is 10. So 10 plus 18 equal to 28 will be the output for this code. Yes, we are getting the same. So absolutely you can use any kind of operators like arithmetical, comparison, logical, or any appropriate operators. The next question I have is, can we create multiple variables at the same time? Yes, absolutely. But how? To avoid the confusion, let me comment out these particular lines. Keyboard shortcut is Ctrl/. And even for this. Alright. Now here the point is, can we create multiple variables at the same time? Yes, you can. Let's say for example, I would like to create 3 variables like a, b, c with different values. Then you can use comma to separate the variable names. So in this case, we are trying to declare 3 variables like a, b, c. As of now, if you run this code, we are getting error saying that name a is not defined. So you must assign a value, for example 10, otherwise 100. In this case, if you run this code, we are getting a different error, that is type error, cannot unpack non-iteratable int object, which means we have not supplied sufficient values for these 3 variables. Since those are 3 variables, it expects 3 values. For example, if you supply 2 values like this, separated with comma, then we are getting another error saying that value error, not enough values to unpack. Means you are trying to create 3 variables like a, b, c, but you have given only 2 values, so it is insufficient. Means you must supply the same values how many variables you want to create. So I am giving another value like 300. Otherwise, you can also give string values, right? Now, we are trying to create 3 variables, but at the same time, we are trying to provide 3 values which are sufficient for those 3 variables. So it absolutely works. Means no error, and exit code is 0, which indicates the program executes successfully. But of course, in case if you want to see, means get back those variables, we have to use the print. In case if you don't want to see the values of those variables, the print statement is optional. So we are getting the 3 values at a time, like 100, 200 and high. These are independent variables, have no connection each other. you can change the data type and value of any variable at any point of time independently. So it is just a shortcut to create multiple variables in the same line, but it doesn't mean that they have interconnected. Alright, the next question that I have is, suppose I would like to create multiple variables, but I would like to assign the same value for all of those. Let us try. The previous attempt was with multiple values, but in this case I would like to try with single value for multiple variables. Let's say, for example, we have three variables like p, q, r, but my requirement is I would like to assign the same value for all these three variables. Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Simply you require to supply only single value. And that's it. Automatically the same value will be taken up for all these three variables. Alright. Now let me print the values of those variables for clarity. We are trying to print the values of three variables at a time. Otherwise, you can also write independent print statement like print of p, print of q, etc. Of course, it is not required. So now we are getting an error saying that cannot unpack non-iteratable int object. So to clear this error, instead of comma, we have to use equal to. So p, q, r, that comma separation is not allowed in Python, but you can use equal to. So we are trying to assign the same value into r, that is 1000 into r, and then the same value of r will be copied into q, and then the same value again one more time will be copied into p. In that way, all these three variables are declared or created, and the same value, that is 1000, has been copied into all these three variables. Yes, we are getting the same output, that is 1000, 1000, 1000 for p, q, or three variables respectively. That's all. So we have understood the basics of Python variables, like you can store any type of value like numbers, strings, or boolean values. You can change the value, you can change the data type, and also you can perform any kind of operators on these variables, and multiple variables with multiple values, and multiple variables with single value. That's all. The same information has been given here in the cheat sheet, so you need not memorize all those code, but you can just follow this particular cheat sheet at any point of time. This is creating a single variable, overwriting the value of existing variable, how do you retrieve the existing value, and also multiple variables with multiple values, and again multiple variables with single value. Alright, this is all you need to know about Python variables, and in the next lecture we are trying to learn assignment operators in Python.